So this evening we want to pay some attention to the download sent by Dr. Woodruff, Living in Existential Times, and we want to look at the issue of parental emphases that are captured inside of that download, which I think is very, very important to us as a community. We all are focused on the whole issue of waterproofing our homes and making sure that our homes are in order, and the result will be an unbreachable kingdom community when our homes are waterproofed, when they're in order and lined up, and leadership is in place, and values and principles and discipline is in place. We have we can call an unbreachable kingdom community. Dr. Drew said that remember that the victory is in the waterproofing of our ark. When God told Noah to put the tar, the pitch inside and outside of the ark so that the water will not leak in. That was a very powerful, powerful principle which has far-reaching consequences in how we manage our efforts. And our homes must be unbreachable. It must be waterproofed. And this is very important. So accurate and strategic parenting is a key process in the waterproofing processes of the kingdom community. Any serious kingdom community or church would want to invest in the development of the parents and to make sure that aspect is very, very correct, because it's possible for us, as the older generation, to have enjoy church life and enjoy serving God together and so on, while our children are left behind. Okay, and other issues in the home is about parenting, it's about strong marriage, it's about all of these things. This evening we're gonna be looking especially at the whole issue of parenting. All right, and accurate and strategic parenting is a key process, in the waterproofing processes of the kingdom community. You show me strong parenting, I show you a strong church. You show me weak parenting, I show you a weak church, because weak parenting ultimately means that our young people are not being built and developed and mature in the way that they should be. Okay? And some time ago, Dr. Ruth told us that the family is the core unit in the kingdom community. Okay, our families are very, very important to us. They mean a lot to us, and it says a lot of the maturity process. It says a lot about the process of development that is taking place inside of the kingdom community. The nature of the development of our families. Okay, so this is really important. And so we want to make sure that our parenting processes, our parents are aware that every time you strengthen and ramp up the structures inside of your home, you're actually building now the kingdom community and making our kingdom community a safe place for God to download His grace. Okay? So we want to buy into that term, waterproofing the processes inside of our homes, making sure that there's no leakage, there's no area in the home where dark energy is seeping in, influencing the children in the wrong way. We want to make sure that is going well. It's a really important issue, accurate and strategic parenting. And in the last days, that's a big issue. Okay, all over the world, parenting is a big issue. And it's directly linked to a lot of the social upheaval that is taking place around the earth, gang warfare and violence and crime and all of these things. When you do a thorough scan of issues that in society, a lot of it is linked to this particular area. And we want to understand that that's an area where the enemy likes to sneak in and cause turbulence. Dr. spoke to us about transparent leadership, which translates to transparent parenting. We are mandated to ensure that the children are thoroughly equipped to walk through the pathway ordained for them. Okay, that's a statement he made in the download we got last week. Okay, we are mandated to ensure that the children are thoroughly equipped to walk through the pathway ordained for them. And that's a big responsibility or obligation of being a parent. Your child or your children, they have a path ahead of them that they must walk through. There's darkness waiting, there are temptations waiting, there are wrong influences waiting, there are spiritual attacks waiting, there are wrong friends down the road waiting, wrong offers, okay, incorrect opportunities, and all of these things waiting down the road. And so we have to prepare them for that. Okay? Because a lot of times they meet up with these things, we are not there, they're on their own, they're somewhere in school or they're on the internet by themselves or wherever. So we have to thoroughly equip that. That's a term which Dr. Jeff used. Our children must be thoroughly equipped to walk through the pathway ordained for them. Many people are failing in life because they were not thoroughly equipped. They just weren't ready. So when the darkness came, the challenge came, the temptation came, the wrong friends came, their response wasn't their response or responses were inadequate, and they fell by the wayside. And we want to make sure that we are preparing our children to walk through the pathway ordained for them. The times that we are living in determines our response to the responsibility of parenting. Okay, the darker the times is the more rigid and more precise and more focused parenting should be. Okay? Noah and his sons who entered the ark, he obviously he brought up his sons in a different way from all the other people around them who were washed away by the flood because they were very wicked. I'm sure some of these guys, they went to school with them or whatever, they knew them, they were neighbors. But some of his three sons had a different mentoring, a different orientation in the midst of the darkness around them. You had to bring them up in a way where they were able to agree to be part of the effort to build the ark. They had to have a certain mentality and faith and standing and fear for God in order to follow their father in an unprecedented project. Okay? And to be living in a holy, pure life with the rest of people around them who were so wicked that God actually repented that he made man. But yet Noah brought up his three children in this way. And we need to look at it because the Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the end. And that's the time we are living in. We have to bring up our children in a way that they gravitate towards the ark and what we are doing. All right, and they must see that in us. Okay, so let's kind of read that scripture again, which Dr. Joseph left it. That's 2 Timothy 3:1. He said, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. And of course, we remember that Dr. Rose said that yes, in the last days, there'll be a lot of horrible incidents like happenings rather, like hurricanes and tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanoes blowing up all over the place, and wars and rumors of wars. But he was saying that the worst manifestation of the last days was the wickedness which will erupt out of the heart of man. Okay. And when he was reading the list, he said that we need to look at the opposite of all of these dark manifestations of dark energy and make sure we produce them in our lives. So I want us to kind of go through that list as parents and determine in our heart that we're gonna make sure the opposite is produced in the lives of our children. We have to parent, lead, and direct our children according to the positives of the negative list of dark energy mentioned in 2 Timothy chapter 3. Everything which was mentioned, we have to build out the opposite inside of our homes and in the hearts and lives of our children. So let's go down that list again, one by one. Lovers of themselves. Scripture men will be lovers of themselves. In other words, self-centeredness. The opposite of that is otherness. So as a parent or parents, we want to teach our children or train them to think about others. When you train them in the way they should go, when they get old, they will not depart from it. So anytime you see signs of selfishness and they're just thinking about themselves, as parents, you want to take a stand and channel them, think about others. It's not just about you. Okay? Because in the last days, the big focus of people will be lovers of themselves. And we want to make sure that we correct that. The second one is lovers of money. What's the opposite of that? Lovers of God. You have to train children to love God, people. Okay? You can't love money and love God at the same level. One of those two factors will rule your heart. And a lot of people, they make a lot of big decisions based on money. And I've met some of my acquaintances here in the US who I knew back in Jamaica, the Caribbean. And a lot of them are up here just for money. And they have achieved the financial objectives which they have sacrificed for a lot for, but at a heavy price. A lot of them, they achieved the American dream, but they have no marriage. Marriage have broken up, lost their children. Some of them lost their feet, but they got their American dream. Okay? And, I'm just looking on. I mean, they live in big houses, some of them, and driving numerous vehicles. But the real treasure, the marriage, the children, and all of the real treasure, they have lost it. Because they are lovers of money. I'm not saying everybody who came to US, that was why. I'm just telling about some instances that I know of. The opposite of that is love for God. When the love of God dominates the life of your child, they will make different decisions. So you have to train them to love God. Don't wait for that to happen like magic. Just like how if you keep giving a child, I remember the first time I gave my daughter, I never forget it, Rena, when she was a little girl, give her Malta. I mean, she set up her face one way and she spit out all of it, but I kept giving it to her. Now she drinks. Afterwards, she started drinking water, a lot of Malta when she was small. Just like anything else, you have to train them so that they acquire the taste. And I want us to do what we can as parents, do all that you can so that your children will acquire a taste for God and they will love Him. Because that's the whole duty of man. Okay? They love the Lord, their God with all their heart. When the rich young ruler came to Jesus and say, what's the greatest commandment? That is what the Lord said. You will love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So that command is founded in these two things, otherness and love for God. Those two things are found inside of the greatest command, according to Jesus. What else we'll see a lot in the dark days? Boastful. Men will be boastful, showing off. Yeah, I see people every day. People like to think we live in the age of the selfie. People always showing off themselves, always showing off themselves. Boastful. What's the opposite of boastful? Meekness. Meekness. You're not in a rush to promote your own self. Okay? You're meek. You're not in any PR stunt. Okay, I was talking to my wife this week, two persons called me this week. They're not part of the Congress. The other person from Jamaica, can I preach? And I was saying, Angela, this is something I've never ever done. Land somewhere and call people and ask, can I preach? All of the preaching engagement opportunities to share with others that I've gotten. God, it was all engineered by the Holy Spirit. Over all of these years, I've never called someone and asked, can I preach or anything like that. So I don't know how people do it. If God wants to open a door for you, leave it up to Him. All right? It's called meekness. We have to be meek. It's a kingdom quality, and I want us to teach our children to be meek. Okay, and this is an issue that we have to manage very carefully, especially those of you with primary age children. And sometimes I know the children at PLC, they're very bright and fast and they do well at school. And sometimes the teachers will want to promote them in a way which can make them arrogant. And you parents need to know that the final say is for you. If you think that now is not the right time for your son to be the prefect, just tell the teacher no thanks. And you don't have to give any explanation. Because you know what you are dealing with at home with your child. Okay, so this is very important. Let us really push forward. I mean, these attributes are also important for every member of the church. But in the context of a parenting meeting, I want us to make sure that we are bringing up meek young people. Okay? It goes in the other one, proud. Men be proud, and we know it's a dangerous thing to be proud for, to be proud. Because the Bible said, God resists the proud. A proud person will not experience the grace of God. The scripture says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And sometimes we have to take deliberate steps to make sure that your child remain humble. Even though he's in number one GSAT boy in the parish, you make sure he go outside, sweep the yard, go down to the center and help the Hebronizers pick up some stuff around the place. Okay, don't let him live in the back of inside of your house as some superstar. Okay, it will destroy him. If it will destroy your child if they do not learn to conduct themselves with humility, because God Himself becomes the enemy to somebody who is proud. And when God is the enemy, who do you call to for help? All right, so parents, do whatever it takes to keep your children humble. I remember a few years ago, we had a helper for many years. Okay, and well, and she would help with the cleaning of the house. But we gave strict instructions to her to not when you go into our children's room, and don't pick up anybody's underwear and don't make up anybody's bed. And certain things you don't touch that. They must do that for themselves. We don't want our children growing up arrogant and full of themselves and think some tasks are beyond them. Okay, or they are beyond some task. So we give strict instructions because we understood the importance of training our children to be humble. And I want you all to look at that. I think that's very important. Okay, because if it is an issue we can get away very easily. Okay, if you're trying kind of separate and all of that. I know if you're her boys, they represent Jamaica in tennis. But she deliberately makes sure they come around, they're not too big for the church. Because we have had that a lot in Christendom. Okay, one of our kingdom communities here in Jamaica, there's a young man who's a talented basketballer. We hardly see him at all because what the coach says. I talk to his mother. I even tell her, call Ava in my church and see how she manages the boys. But that situation kind of, I don't know what's going on with it now because he's this big time talented basketballer. And if the, the coach call a thing that clashes with a Congress meeting or a church thing, he's not showing up. He's too big. He's a big star. And that's the pathway for destruction. All right, we need to make sure we keep them young people in a way that they remain humble and care about themselves in that way. And that's the pathway for God to promote them. We're talking about parenting against the darkness, and we are going down that list which we find in 2 Timothy chapter 3, which Dr. Woodruff shared with us. Another thing Paul mentioned was abusive. Okay, in the last days, men shall be abusive. All of these things flow out of people's heart. Abusive. Okay, abusive. And that's a broad issue right there. People can be emotionally abusive. There are a lot of bullying taking place in cyberspace, in the internet. People can be abusive with their words, can be physically abusive. Okay? A lot of wife beaters, people who are abusing their wives and so on. They grew up in church. So how come they grew up in church and you end up being a wife beater? You weren't parented properly. Okay? And the opposite of being abusive is being gentle. Gentleness is a characteristic of the Spirit of God. And so we want to teach our children the importance of being gentle. And especially our boys. Okay, in Jamaica, there's a distorted concept that men must be rough. And you have no emotional side to you. And if you're too gentle, you think something is wrong with you. We reject those nonsense. All right, wrong thoughts. We want our young men to be gentle. That's how they qualify to be gentlemen and know how to behave around their sisters and take care of them and all of that. And how to deal with each other, teach each other how to deal with each other and none of the name calling, because when you're calling one another negative names, that's abuse. And we need to let them understand these things. Okay. Disobedient. What else can we say about that? We do live in a very disobedient environment. People are generally disobedient, doing whatever they want. You walk down the tongue, you see a big sign, no vending. And right under the sign, what do you see? A lady set up with one big stand right under the sign there. And what she's doing, she's vending. That's a general culture of the age that we live in. People just being disobedient, don't like to follow rules and follow instructions. Okay. My wife was not, and we were not trained a while ago. Big sign at the door. Don't lean on the door. People leaning on the door. Okay, people just contrarian, disobedient. We have to teach our children to be obedient. We have to teach our children to be obedient. They have to learn obedience. Okay? People, obedience is something that they have to learn. You have to drill it into them. True obedience is instant obedience. It's willing obedience. It's not negotiating. Okay? People who don't learn obedience, they suffer a lot in their life because they get instructions and so on, you know. In my experience as a senior elder, the individuals who gave me the most work, hard, a lot of stress and hard work, are persons who never learned obedience. I can tell you story after story after story. They just never learned it in growing up. And they give them instructions and they tell them something, they just do their own thing and end up in all kind of problems. And they have to go dig them out. And if they had just followed instructions in the first place, it would have been so easy for them. Okay, they can't listen and take instruction. And and the lives of our children will be less stressful and they would progress far in life if they learn the priority of being obedient. And I want you all to teach them that. And God can trust obedient people. All right. And we want God to our children to grow up into individuals who God can trust. So give that some thought. Ungrateful. That's a general spirit of the age. People are just ungrateful. That's a manifestation of the dark energy in the last days. Okay? People not being grateful. Ingratitude. And what's the opposite of that? Being grateful. Gratefulness. A heart filled with gratitude. So we have to teach our children to be grateful and to be thankful. Sometimes be complaining about the little they got here and all of that. And you have to tell them, listen, you need to be grateful and tell them why. Remember, you have to train in these things. It might sound like simple things, but yet the Apostle Paul, these are the issues he raised as being, the, the terrible last days that we live in. These are the issues he have highlighted, which means that they might seem simple, but we need to pay attention to them. Okay, unholy, big, 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 big one. Okay, unholy, unholy, and that's a spirit of the age too. People have no limits, no boundaries, just do anything anyway. Okay, and and it is destroying the lives. Unholy conduct is very destructive to human life. Okay, sexual misconduct, abuse of drugs, and obscene language, and all of these things becoming a norm, but they undermine human life. They undermine the quality of human life, and they do not please God. Bottom line, we want to teach our children to be holy. Let's celebrate being a virgin. Let's celebrate that with our young children. Talk to them about it. Okay, talk to them about remaining a virgin until they get married. Have those discussions. Okay, and let them know how holy the marriage bed is and secret it is. And let's promote those type of conversations because out there they're hearing something else. When they put on the songs of Babylon, a whole different value system is being celebrated in the media. So in our context, we need to highlight what we know is correct and what we know is true. Holiness is not just for old people. We want our young children to understand that it's cool to be holy because you are pleasing God. Holiness is a life that is separated from sin. Simply that, doing the right thing all the time. Without love, another big issue of the manifestation of the dark energy in the last is people just don't have any love. Not nice. Don't know how to be loving to people. They just don't know. And we want our children to be loving. Not just to who they know, but even to strangers, because Bible talk about being hospitable to strangers, and many have served angels and didn't realize it was an angel that they were serving. Okay? So is your child a loving child? That's not a characteristic that's unique to specific children. This is a kingdom conduct or habit which all children must learn. And again, I say this doesn't drop into someone like magic. You have to train them to be loving. Because remember, your children, your sweet, nice little pumpkin pies, they were also born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And now as they grow, we have to teach them the ways of the kingdom. Okay, educate their character, educate their spirit so they can they can behave in the proper way. Unforgiving. Well, don't get me started. Okay. Forgiveness is not just a doctrine, it's a way of life. And a lot of people did not grow up as a forgiving person. That's why people walk out of a church after 20 years because somebody says something they didn't like. They didn't grow up in a forgiving environment. They saw wrong models, probably between their parents and neighbors and other adults in their lives when they were small. Okay. So that's why it's important, parents, if, for example, you have an argument with each other in front of a children, just set it in front of the children so they can see how you forgive each other and they love each other even more in the end. It's a way of life. It's more than just a doctrine. Well, Jesus said to forgive, and we try our best to believe it and practice it. But a lot of times, if it remains just some scripture in the Bible and it's not a way of life, as Paul describes his conduct in the same chapter, then we're missing it. It's a culture. Forgiveness is a culture. Okay, it should become a default response to when people do you wrong. Okay? Out in the world, the default response is to be bitter and vexed for the next 25 years. And then you get so bitter after a while, you break off relationship. That's the culture of Babylon. There are a lot of Christians, people in the church who have not gotten that out of their system. And they sit down right in among God's people, they're vexed about all kind of different things. When forgiveness should be our natural, it should be part of our DNA. It should be part of our culture. Let's train our children to be forgiving. And God will allow things to happen, deliberately allow things to happen, so they will learn to forgive. And it's something that a lot of children do naturally, but we adults pass on some bad habits to them. Because in most instances, children, they have some argument at 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, you see them hug up and squeeze up on the sofa watching TV together. It's we forgiveness who carry on the nonsense for 20 years and then walk out after. Because we cannot, release people who have done us wrong. So let's think about these things. Slanderous. Slanderous means to, tear down somebody's character. When you slander someone, you tear down their character. You say wrong things about them, and sometimes those things are not true. They may or may not be true, the issues you're talking about. So even what you are saying might be true, but if you're still out there talking about it, you're slandering the person. So we need to understand that. So a slanderers doesn't just focus on untruth, but it could be truth. But sometimes we have to know when to just not carry negative things, news about somebody's character. When King Saul died, and they came and told David that King Saul died. Remember, King Saul was rejected by God. He was backslidden. He was murderous in his thoughts towards David. And when David had heard that he was dead, he commanded his men, he said, "Tell it nothing, Gath." Gath was the capital city of the Philistines, the enemies of the Jews. He said, "Tell it nothing, Gath, lest the daughters of the Philistine rejoice." So that was an opportunity for David to slander. Or I say, see, I tell her that this man wasn't good in the first place. But he told everybody, keep that down. I don't want anybody spreading this news around. Don't let the Philistines know he's dead. Keep down the news. Okay? That's how we must grow up our children. Okay? The opposite of that is esteem others highly. In fact, the Bible said esteem each other highly. Big up people. If you have nothing to big up, then just don't talk. If you have nothing to say positive, then don't say anything. Train our trainer again. We have to train our trainer again. This is part of the manifestation of dark energy in the earth where people will just be negative and saying things about each other. We have to teach our children to do the opposite. If you cannot post something positive on social media about a friend, don't do any posting. Train them to esteem others highly. Ask them questions, tell me something. What are the strong points of your friend down the road? That young guy you met in evolution last week, or the young lady you met, or the girl inside of Project Heritage. Tell me something about positive about them, Have this type of conversations because you are training them to look for the good things which God has deposited inside of people. Again, these characteristics don't drop from the sky. I know of people who are saved for years and don't have these characteristics because nobody trained them. They weren't trained or taught. And I'm asking our parents to become more focused and clear as we move forward without self-control. Parent, make sure you have a finger on this one. Okay? So, because your children must learn self-control or self-government. So that means you can't have your daughter there watching TV a whole weekend watching TV. No, just hour after hour after hour, episode after episode, series after series, all weekend long, and no participation in other things around the house. She's not outside there helping to water the garden and to do the dishes and to learn to cook something, and you know. Nothing is wrong with watching TV, but if there's no limit, okay, you can watch it for 2 hours, and after that, switch it off. When you give an instruction like that, you are teaching your child self-control. When there are no limits, they can just go to bed anytime. Listen, those of you inside of this meeting and you have no set bedtime for children who are Project Heritage age group and the younger group inside of Evolution. Repent. I want you to go back home and set up some structures in your home. When it's bedtime, it's bedtime. And bedtime doesn't mean they're ready to sleep. It's just time to go to bed, switch off your light. Mommy and daddy need to spend time and talk to each other. Those of you, I passed by some houses and 1 o'clock in the morning, the children set up. That's no structure inside of there. And I'm just talking as a preacher. I am a parent myself. And I know it's possible to set up structure in the home and tell the children when it's bedtime, when to wake up. If they Saturday morning and that young man sleeping till 11 o'clock in the morning, that's a lack of self-control. You need to get up and do something around the place. Okay? You need to train your children to control their passions. Watching TV is good, but you don't let it get away from you. Okay? Eating chicken is nice, but if you eat chicken all day long, chicken, after a while you'll get sick. All right? Self-control or self-government or temperance in all things, as the Bible says, is very important. And the first place, the first people who children should learn that from are their parents. Very important. Okay? There's a time for everything. That's the principle of self-control in Ecclesiastes. Okay? Okay? The scripture says there's a time and a season. For everything, there's a season. For every purpose, there's a time. So you need to understand that self-control. So when it's time for you and your daughter to spend time, she cannot tell you, I'm doing homework now, daddy. That's not good. Okay? Homework time is homework time. Spending time with daddy and mommy that's a different time. All right, we need to put these things in place, parents. Otherwise, you're going to produce monsters. All right? And these are the things the Apostle Paul highlight as indicators of the dark, terrible last times. People will just have no self-control. Just do whatever they want. Okay, and Babylon celebrates that people just doing whatever they want. Frank Sinatra sang, I did it my way. That's a Babylonian celebration of the lack of self-control inside of that song. Brutal and not gentle. Brutal. Okay. And the issue of gentleness, we spoke about that a while ago. Okay, but that's another manifestation of the dark energy flowing into the earth. People just brutal in the way the things they do to each other. I mean, God gave man wisdom to discover the atom. What do they make out of it? A bomb, nuclear power. When that same principle that they discovered could have been used to invent more effective medicines and technology that can help people to become better farmers and better educators, and you name it. But what they develop weapons instead, which can destroy the whole earth. Nobody can win a nuclear war yet. Nations threatening each other. Okay. There's a bullet. I know somebody in the US invented this bullet. When that bullet shoots you, it doesn't just shoot you, when it comes in the body, when it comes into your body, it explodes like a little bomb inside of you. In other words, they don't just want to shoot you, they want to make sure that you don't live after you get shot. Because a normal bullet, you can recover from a shot in a lot of instances. The doctor just find the bullet and pull it out, and you're good to go again. That somebody took the talent God gives them, the insight God gives them, the ability to create God gives them, and what it do? Create a bullet which explodes inside of your body. That's being brutal. It's a big issue. So, it sounds like a simple thing, but the more you dig into it, it's the more you realize how dark it is. But the opposite has been gentle and being sensitive. Okay, and paying attention to the needs of others and how can I facilitate that person. A gentle person is a facilitator. You are sensitive to the needs of others. And you can train your training that way. Not lovers of the good, but we want our children to be lovers of good. All right, promote that. A lover of good will take care of the environment. and keep the place clean and be a productive citizen, not lovers of the good, that would not be a priority. See, all of these positions have far-reaching consequences. A lot of the evil in the world, that is in the world today, you find all of it inside of this list, which Paul provided. Treacherous, that's people who cannot be loyal. This is children saying horrible things about their parents that are not true. It's that treacherous trait inside of them. We have to teach them to be loyal. That's why I have to teach children to honor their parents and how to be good friends and how to keep their promises and their commitment. You talk to a lot of your children and they talk about when they have to be part of a group in school to do an assignment. And everybody get their role to doing that assignment. They're part of the assignment to do, which they should bring together as a group and complete the assignment. And you hear about two members didn't bring their commitments, their obligations to the group. That's a seed of being treacherous because they have undermined the work of the entire group. So the whole group failed and got a F because two members or one member didn't do their part. So behind that is, do you keep your word or not? Do you keep your commitment to someone or not? And the opposite of that is being loyal, and somebody with a loyal heart, you can depend on them. You know they have your back covered. You can, their word, they will keep, they will do anything to keep their commitment. And again, this type of attitude doesn't drop from the sky like magic. You have to train people to be in that way. So, rush. Couple more was left in 2 Timothy. Rush. The word rush means to do things without concern about how it will impact others. You do not care about the implications, how it will impact others. So that's why I see young people going into the school, use a restroom, and they pee up on the toilet and don't flush the toilet. All right, and the next person come and meet all sort of stuff that was not flushed down the toilet. There was a urine all over the toilet paper, drop all over the place because their parents never taught them to be careful and to be sensitive to the needs of others and prepare the toilet for the next person coming in. Okay, we have to be dealing with that all the time at Northgate High. So I wonder what people teach their children. Go in toilet, use it, leave it nasty. That's being rushed. It starts with these small things, and then it becomes bigger. That person might end up being a supervisor or a politician when they grow up next 20 years. And they come up with policies and decisions and all sort of things that impacts the lives of others in a negative way. Okay, when a rash person is someone who do things without considering the implications that his or her actions have for other persons. How we want to develop our children, we want them to be careful and sensitive. We need to pay attention to that. Dr. told us to look at the opposite of all of these manifestations of dark energy and work on the positive side. Is your child a careful and sensitive person? Again, this is not things that a lot of children are born naturally with. Most of the times we have to train them. The Bible says train a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. And we have to look at the issue of careful and being sensitive as a character we want for all of our children. Is your child careful and sensitive to how his actions impacts the rest of the family? At home, when he leave that dirty dish on the counter and don't make up his bed for weeks, and also got a roach laying eggs in the bed, is he thinking about how it will impact the rest of the family? So let's think about that. Conceited. Is your child full of himself or herself? Remember my mother, she really, this was an issue she dealt with a lot and made sure that we didn't grow up conceited. And she told us of this poem, I shared it in church a couple of times, of a conceited child who says something like, of all my mother's children, I love myself the best. And when my belly is full, the devil can't take the rest. Okay, a conceited child somehow think that he or she is more important than everybody else. I know of one family got two daughters, and one of the daughters was kind of conceited. So conceited that if they bought a new dress or something new for the other daughter, the conceited daughter would run ahead and wear that new dress before the other daughter got to wear it. Okay, and that's being conceited. And I told her that's a serious issue you all need to deal with, because somehow this young lady thinks that she is more important than her sister. And I know in Jamaica, you have that issue, okay, where probably the one who passed for some school or one who have a lighter shade color than the other children in the family, and that one is brought up in a conceited way. It's part of the culture, the Babylonian culture in our island. And we have to make sure that we correct these things. What's the opposite of that? Being modest and egoless. Being modest and being egoless. Okay, teach children, don't think too highly of yourself now. Carry yourself as a servant. Okay, learn to put others before yourself. All right? Modesty is important. The Bible talk about the women of old, they did not adorn them. Their adornment didn't come from jewelry and so on. They used to wear jewelry, yes, but that was not what they depended on to be beautiful. What they depended on to be beautiful was an internal beauty, modesty. All right, and that's very important. Lovers of pleasures, okay? Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. So that the scripture kind of gave us the positive side of that right there. Part of the scripture said they are lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. So we know immediately the preference of the Lord is for us to be lovers of God. And we touched that a while ago. We can teach our children how to love God, to acquire the taste of God. Okay? Lovers of pleasure, just like to party and indulge in the finer things of life. Okay? And and just focusing on that and have no time for God and giving to God and facilitating others. Okay? And you can pick that up very quickly, parent, if your child keep missing out important things in the kingdom to go to some events at school or some party or this and that. And those things keep being a priority over the things of God. They are on the pathway of becoming lovers of pleasure. And they need to take some corrective action. Having a form of godliness but denying its power. Having a form of godliness but denying its power. Okay, so that's just, in other words, that's just being religious but not being changed. Okay? Okay, they're just conforming, but they're not being transformed. All right, and that's why you have to talk to them and make sure that they're engaging the transactional power of the kingdom. Okay, they must be transacting with the word. What did you hear on Sunday? How are you applying it to your life? What stood out to you? And when you ask them that question and they say, well, I need to check my notes, right there, you know something is wrong. Because if something really impacted them, you don't need notes to try to remember what it was. This is not reviewing notes. When a question is asked, what impacted you? You should be able to answer it quickly. Always ask your child that what impacted you on Sunday. And once I need to check my notes, it means that they are not really engaging. Okay, because if you, with the guys who were up in the upper room in the day of Pentecost when the Holy Ghost came down and he asked them, what impacted you the most? Nobody would ask you. See, well, I need to check my notes at that point. They will talk about what I just felt the presence of God in the room and they begin to talk about it immediately. Okay? When Paul was hit from the horse in Damascus and he couldn't see and he became blind for a while and he had to be led by the hand because this light came from heaven and the Lord changed him from a murderous person into a gentle apostle. And you ask him about that day, he wouldn't say, well, I need to go check my writing, I'll soon come back to you. He's able to tell you what happened and what was the highlight of that moment. And we want to encourage our children to transact with God when they come to meetings. So children must be able to see into the hearts of their parents. So you have to be examples and your relationship with them must be one that is transparent so they can see you and see the patterns. They must be able to see manhood and womanhood in the lives of their fathers. Fathers, that's why you're there to show your son what is manhood. Ladies, you are there to show your daughters what's womanhood. Okay, that's very important. And you are the other men and women of the community. We have that responsibility as doctors to show the children these patterns by being transparent before them, let them see our hearts, what's our motivation, what's our priorities, so they can follow. Okay, so we are mandated to ensure that the children are thoroughly equipped to walk through the path we ordained for them by God. And I said that before, the times that we are living in determine our response to the responsibility of parents. All right, I want to just look at Eli before we close. 1 Samuel 2:12. When you all have time, read the full chapter 2 and chapter 3. I'll just take a few verses because of time. Eli was a priest in Israel. He was a judge. In those days, they had no king. So they had judges. So he was a judge and a priest. Okay, so he was the spiritual leader of the nation, but his sons, they were ungoverned. And God ended up dealing with Eli in a very serious way and his family. So let's kind of pick up the story with some verses from chapter 2 and chapter 3 of 1 Samuel. Verse 12 says, Eli's sons were scoundrels. Scoundrels. They had no regard for the Lord. This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight. And this is a heartbreaking situation for any of our young people to end up. These guys and the sons of Eli, they were committing fornication with the girls in the temple, and they were stealing the offerings that the people were bringing before the Lord. The Bible said this sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel, and how they slept with the woman who served at the entrance to the tent of the meeting. So he said to them, why do you do such things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours. So people watch your children, okay? No, my sons, the report I hear spreading among the Lord's people is not good. If one person sins against another, God may mediate for the offender. But if anyone sins against the Lord, who will intercede for them? Verse 25. His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke. So he was speaking to the boys, saying, guys, behave yourself, behave yourself. For it was the Lord's will to put them to death. Verse 29. So after a while, God stepped in and said, you're going to wipe out these boys. Verse 29, God confronted Eli. Why do you honor your sons more than me? By fattening yourselves on the choice part of every offering made by my people Israel. So they were bringing home the proceeds of their misbehavior. And the Lord, chapter 3, and the Lord said to Samuel, Samuel is a little boy now, and God is telling him what he's going to do to Eli and his sons. And the Lord said to Samuel, see, I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. At that time, I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family from beginning to end. For I told him that I would judge his family forever. Why? Because of the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God and he failed to restrain them. Therefore, I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering. Two lessons we learned from Eli here I want to leave with you. Eli spoke to his sons, but he did not restrain his sons. Two different things. And I know a lot of you parents, you talk to your children, but sometimes we have to restrain them if the situation requires it. And there are different levels of restraining. Okay, sometimes restraining might be no TV for you, or I need to come home at X time, or whatever, off social media for the next few months, and at the older the children get, restrained can mean different things. You can't just talk. You have to restrain. Sometimes I be putting out that young adult from your house. Okay? The word restrain means to stop, to break, to arrest, to halt, to rein in, to hold back, to confine. Eli spoke to his sons, but he did not restrain his sons. That's in the Bible in black and white. He spoke to his sons, but he did not restrain his sons. Restraining someone is the next level of action against someone who is clearly not listening or conforming. That's the next step. We talk, hopefully they will straighten up because you talk. But if they are not listening, then you have to take some restraining action. The action of restraining someone is geared towards protecting the wider community or others who are being hurt or violated by the behavior of that person. So that's why when a judge take out a restraining order on someone, obviously that person was being communicated with, but now their behavior has become unpredictable and they are now a danger or a liability to the next group who has now applied for a restraining order. Okay? So it is geared towards protecting the wider community or others who are being hurt or violated by the behavior of that person. And Eli was in a position, he was a judge of Israel, and he could have taken actions to restrain his sons. He could have thrown them out of the priesthood. He could have locked them up because they were stealing. He was a judge of Israel. All right, and he made them get away with all sort of madness and did not honor God. And God was very angry about it. What's the second lesson from Eli? Eli's situation teaches us that you must not love your children more than the precepts of the Lord. Parents, this entire sentence is in red. You must not love your children more than the precepts of the Lord. When it's time for you to take action, take action. Because taking action, talking to your children, disciplining them, restraining them, that's one way of honoring the Lord. It might be painful, but do it as unto the Lord. The standards, the principles, the culture and values of the kingdom must never be compromised in order to facilitate anyone, no matter how much you love them and what they mean to you. Let me read that again. The standards, the principles, the culture, the values of the kingdom of God must never be compromised in order to facilitate anyone, no matter how much you love them and what they mean to you. All right, so make sure you don't fall into Eli's situation as far as your children are concerned, okay? Talk to them and make sure your talk is effective, discipline them. But if you have to move to the level of restraining them, do what you have to do, okay? So I want to end by reading what Joshua's position when he was old and declaring how things will go. He didn't even consult the members of his household before me. He just made a statement and made his position clear. He said, but if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. As the head of his house, he made a declaration. Okay? He didn't wait for children to evolve. As Dr. said, we don't believe in evolving or evolution in the kingdom. It's either the standard of the word or not. And he made the statement, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So I want you all to be clear about these issues and to contemplate on them and think about them and pray about them and make sure that you are applying these issues to your responsibilities as parents because they are very important. Okay? Amen.